Hello, and welcome to the Write Club podcast, where we take you behind the pages and into the fascinating world of writing. I'm Beth, and I'm joined, as always, by Mary. Hi, Mary, how are you?
Hi Beth, lovely to see you. So this is a slightly different episode today as we have two guests, Gary Dalkin and Sophie Beal. Gary Dalkin is a published writer and editor specializing in editorial assessment. He provides a range of services for writers, including developmental editing, copy editing, line editing, as well as mentoring, support and guidance, whether authors are looking to get a traditional deal or to self-publish. He's also the associate editor with Cadence Publishing.
Yes, and we've also got Sophie Beal with us, who is a writer, the director of Cadence Publishing, and the creator of the Beneath the Page podcast. Together, they created Organising Chaos, which is turning a messy draft into a publishable novel, which was originally a talk at the 2024 Bournemouth Writing Festival. The talk sold out, and Gary and Sophie were asked to give the talk again at this year's festival, where it proved to be the most popular daytime event of the entire 3 days. So we're very lucky that we've now got an online version of Organising Chaos, which Sophie and Gary have revised and expanded the session for online with additional material they weren't able to include in the 1 hour time slot at the festival.
Gary and Sophie, welcome to the Write Club podcast. Where are you joining us from today?
We're about 3 miles apart in different sides of Bournemouth.
Lovely. And where did the idea for Organising Chaos come from, and who is it for?
Well, honestly, I don't really remember exactly where the idea came from, but I guess we'd be talking about writing sometime and talking about what we were going to pitch to the festival, and somehow it would probably just evolved out of that because we talk about writing together all the time. One thing I do know is that Sophie definitely thought of the title, which I think is a brilliant title, and it seems to have really struck a chord with people.
Well, it's a description of my life as well as my work. So,
Me too.
I'm saying nothing.
So, in what ways have you worked together over the last decade?
well, we started off, we ran a writing group for a long time, which has now sort of deteriorated into jacket potatoes every year. We've given talks together. We've written articles for Writing Magazine together. What else have we done, Gary?
Writing workshops. We've done a few podcasts with an American podcast called The Secrets of Story. And then the Writing Festival came along, and our writing group had been killed by the pandemic. Suddenly nobody wanted to do it anymore after the first year of the pandemic. We were doing it online, and I think everyone was sick of Zoom, frankly. So nothing really happened for a couple of years. And then the Bournemouth Writing Festival came along, and we've been involved with that, all three festivals. And we did a panel the first year, and Sophie did a talk. And it's just really taken off from there.
And of course, you've edited my work, haven't you? My own.
I do. I edit Sophie's writing, yes.
But I've asked you to take on the role as associate editor for my small publishing company, haven't I?
Absolutely.
Yeah, and he's done a brilliant job. I can heartily recommend him. Which I say behind his back as well. So.
Oh, that's brilliant. So you guys go back.
Yeah, about 12 years now, is it, Gary?
I think we've known each other about 12 years.
Yeah.
Oh, that's incredible. And the words "how to re-inspire your writing brain" really stood out for me. And I think we all need help with that sometimes. So what advice would you give to any of our listeners whose writing brain is just kind of feeling a little bit less than inspired?
Well, for me, I would say it's have a break from it. The first thing you can do is step away from it. Everything looks better after a break. And that break can look like reading a book, that's always good, or going for a walk. And sometimes just changing project, I would say, is really helpful. What would you think, Gary?
Well, no, this is going to sound like a bit of a cop-out here, but I think there's no one piece of advice that's just going to work for everybody, because everybody's brains are different and all our circumstances are different, and just the way we do everything is different. And this is something that we do go over in the talk with lots of different ideas for re-inspiring your brain, because I think sometimes people want a one solution fits all, and there isn't one, but we have lots and lots of ideas.
Oh, that's
and I'm not going to
brilliant.
give them away now because I want people to come to the webinar.
Exactly. I was just about to say that, and I'm really, really excited for it because I feel like there is going to be so much that that, like you say, everybody that will be able to take away from it. And the online version there is actually going to be a time for people to ask questions as well, which can either be submitted in advance by email or during the session. What questions have you been asked before when you've delivered the talk?
Yeah, I mean, I think the questions come in different guises, but underlying there is often the same thing, is that people are looking for one simple solution, that there is one simple thing that you can tell them that if they follow it, like a magic secret, then they will get their book finished. And I think there sort of is, but really there isn't. And by what I mean by that is the sort of is if you just put the hard work in and keep writing, you will get there, you'll get it done. But the whole thing about that is that it looks different for everybody. And again, what I said just before, everybody's brain and process is different. It might be that some people have to get up at 5 in the morning and write for half an hour every day and just really committed to doing that, no matter how tired they are, just sit there with the coffee and writing before life starts for the day. For other people, it might be taking a day at the weekend and just writing all day, one day a week. There's so many different ways and so many different techniques that work for different people. So yeah, and people are also, this is what people ask fundamentally, is what do I do? And that's what we try to answer.
Yeah. Last time somebody asked us, is it better to overwrite or underwrite your first draft, for instance? And my response was, it doesn't really matter, because the reader reads the final draft, and it's how you get there that matters. It's the final result, not the journey for the reader. That's what they
absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I'll give you a couple of examples of that. Is we go from really famous writer to one maybe not quite so well known yet, but maybe will be one day. If we look at Stephen King, he always says that he puts his manuscript away, comes back to it a few months later and has a look at it, and he can see the first thing he can do is he can take about 20% of it, because he's overwritten and over explained. And sometimes you find then that you don't need that other explanation because it becomes clear from context. And then there's another writer who's on the podcast right now, who I'm always saying, could you put something in? I don't quite understand this. Like, you're being too clever here. You left things out and left too much for the reader to work out for themselves. So, but so I tell Sophie, can you just explain what's going on here, frankly? But both approaches work. You get there in the end.
Oh, that's brilliant.
I think his quote was, I think my favourite quote from his last editorial was, notice I don't say you put in too little description, because you put in none at all.
Oh, that's brilliant. And you've mentioned it a little bit already, but would you be able to tell us a little bit about some of the other writing events that you're involved with?
Well, we've just come away from the Bournemouth Writing Festival, which is run by the same people as run the General Writing Festival, and that was enormous. That was enormous fun, wasn't it, Gary? We had big name writers. I was volunteering, and I was volunteering, checking people in. And at one point, somebody said their name was Paige Toon, and I went, "Oh, I've heard of you somewhere." I knew her through the festival, or we'd done something around Bournemouth together, or something like that. And the person behind me went, "She's a multi-million-pound bestseller." But yes, so I was interviewing one of the women who were launching their book at the festival, and you were running a panel, weren't you, Gary?
Yeah, I hosted a panel on the theme of a sense of place with Sue Moorcroft, who's the president of the Romantic Novelists Association, Philippa Ashley, and Janet Gover, who are all multi-million selling authors. So that was sort of fun.
Why you were there, didn't you?
I did wonder why I'd been asked, because there was basically Dominic, and I think there were about 7 men there in total, but most of them were there as 1+1s, weren't they, really?
Yes.
And but yeah, no, it was amazing. It was a really enjoyable day. And then in the evening, we had a big gala and we had a lot of fun. Best moment maybe when Millie Johnson told us some outrageous anecdote, which I can't possibly repeat, and Philippa Ashley nearly died laughing.
Well, hopefully that'll entice people to go along to some of these events.
Yeah, hope so.
Yeah.
So yeah, and other things that were involved in, there's the main writing festival in Bournemouth, which is at the end of every April. and that has all sorts of things for writers that
Yeah.
we really encourage to come along.
Loads.
Panels, workshops, talks, and then the big evening gala events, and it's really very inclusive. Lots of things like the Outsiders Project and all sort of marginalized communities that really try to get involved in that. And yeah, that's a brilliant event as well.
Oh, lovely. Well, going back to the event that we're talking about, the Organising Chaos, I wondered if you'd be able to give our listeners some tips on how to improve their productivity.
Yes, for me, it's all about mindset, and I think in metaphors, so bear with me. One is I've begun to think about any writing project or editing project like building a wall, and however far through you are building that wall, that brick matters. So what you do on any one day will count towards your writing. So will count towards the final product. So keep going. And oh, I had another one that was pure genius, but I've forgotten it now.
Well, also, don't worry too much about word count. People tend to get hung up on word count. Just do some writing every day, even if it's a small amount. Even if you think I've got 5 minutes and that you think, well, why would I bother? That isn't time to do anything. But it all adds up, even if you're just looking back over what you've done and just refreshing your mind. The more you're thinking about it, if you just do things just in even small little spells like that, it all adds up and it all contributes to it, but it keeps the book in your mind. So don't wait till you've got a long time to spend on it. It's sort of just keeping the habit of doing a bit every day.
Yeah.
And I've thought of another one, a really important one. Find yourself some writing buddies. That's been incredibly important for my productivity, knowing that there are other people who are trying to do the same. There are other people trying to finish their novels or their projects at the same time, and being able to talk about it and moan about it, and realizing you're not alone. I would say that now I know what that's like. I'm not sure I could do without it.
Yeah, don't tell your writing buddies too much about what you're actually writing, though. Moan about everything else, about having to take the dog out for a walk in the rain and all the rest of the things get in the way. But if you talk about your actual story too much, you're going to lose enthusiasm for it and maybe kill that. So keep that to yourself.
That's a really good point, actually.
I think you can talk about something so much that you just lose your inspiration for it. It's all talked out and you don't feel that need to actually write it down anymore.
Yes.
Yeah, definitely. We always like to ask our guests for book recommendations, and I wonder if you both have something that you'd like to recommend for our readers.
Yeah, well, an awful lot of what I've been reading recently, it's either been for the festival, the Romantic Festival, or it's been books by my clients or other things that I'm involved with work. So I can't really pick one of those because it just wouldn't be fair on everybody else. So what I'm going to say, that best thing I think I've read for pleasure in quite a while, is I went back to Gerald Durrell's Corfu trilogy, read the first book, My Family and Other Animals, read that back at school. And I think that frankly at school, it just didn't really resonate with me. But looking back at it now, coming back to it all these years later, I think it was fantastic. And I was so excited by it. I just went and read the next 2 volumes straight after. And it was just so relaxing, especially the weather wasn't too great here. And it was just lovely to just sit back and read that. And it wasn't for work and I could just really enjoy it. And it was lovely.
Yes. And I love a craft book. And my perennial recommendation would be 7 Secrets the Prolific by Hilary Rettig, who basically helps writers struggling with writer's block and worrying about writer's block and not sure whether writer's block exists. She basically takes you and sort of like nurtures you through the process of getting out of it and just getting on with things. She changed my life. So
that sounds brilliant. I'm sure that will be very helpful to lots of our listeners.
Yeah, absolutely. And just kind of going back onto Organising Chaos a little bit. I know you kind of given us a bit of an explanation as to what it entails, but why should a person come to this webinar?
I think it's at the point when they've got stuck. Often people ask me, at what point do you need an editor or to turn to other help? And I'd say do as much as you can, But when you get to that point where you realize that your book really isn't finished, it's not good enough to send to an agent or to a publisher, but you just don't know what to do, then that's the point when I think that we're coming to our own, because that's the whole thing about it, is turning a messy draft where you're so frustrated with it, you just don't know what to do next. But you don't know where to turn. You don't want to give up on it. You don't know if it's good or bad or terrible. Yeah. I mean, writers, I think they can often get into almost a state of a panic or despair, and they can have written a really good book, but at some point, well, we've started running an author meetup, it's called, once a month, that we have in a local cafe. And we were talking to one of the writers there just a couple of weekends ago, and she was saying, I hate my own book. And that can happen. And the book might be perfectly good. I mean, we don't know, we haven't seen this particular book, but it could be perfectly good. But you can get to that stage where you're so frustrated with it, you just want to throw it aside and go on to the next shiny new idea and forget about that, because it's just got a bit of a burden, really. What do you reckon, Sophie?
No, I'd agree. I'd agree with you. Yes, this is we're aiming this at the miserable. Yeah, if your book's making you miserable, come to our talk.
No, the idea is to inspire you, to take you up from that level of misery.
Yes.
Because sometimes so many writers, they say they love being a writer, but they hate the actual writing. And especially at that point where you just know it's not quite good enough, it's just not there. And yeah, we can sort of get you out of that, because here is a secret. This happens to just about every writer there is. I'm sure there's a few somewhere out there that just breeze through everything and never have any problems at all. But most writers have times where they just get completely stuck or just get so frustrated. And really, sometimes it's not as bad as you think. I think that's one of the things. People get through this, and it really isn't as bad as you think, even if your manuscript has got a lot of faults. It is about where I said earlier, there is a simple solution, and the simple solution is getting down to doing the work. But first, you've sort of got to clear your mind about what that work is, what it is you need to do. And we help you figure that out, figure out what is wrong, and then how to take it forward.
Brilliant. And if anybody actually finds an author who has just sailed through their career without any struggles or any thought of actually hating or enjoying writing for their entire life, please let us know who that person is, because I'm dying to meet them.
Yes, and what their ghostwriter is.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that is the answer there. I think you've got it. I know I did once, many years ago, I saw an interview on American television, and there was this woman being interviewed, and I think she'd been held hostage in the Middle East. She was military, and she'd been held hostage for about 40 days. And she'd written a book about it. And she was being interviewed, and it was quite clear that not only was the book ghostwritten, but she hadn't actually read it.
Oh, wow.
She was being asked questions, and she hadn't got a clue what was in her own book.
Oh my goodness, that's shocking.
Probably got a lot of money for it as well.
No doubt. Sophie, would you be able to tell us a little bit about your podcast and also about your publishing company and how people can get in touch with you?
Well, beneath the page, it's run by I run it with my co-host Steve Couch, and the premise behind it is that you can tell a lot about a writer by what they write, or an author by what they write. So we mostly interview authors about their latest book, and basically delve deeper into the person who wrote it. So we're having a lot of fun with that. We do it. Our studio is my lounge, and so people generally people come round to us, which is a lot, and we get to know them really quite well over an hour. We had one of my friends, Alex Stone. I know her quite well through the Bournemouth Writing Festival, but I found out loads of things I didn't know about her through, because she came on our podcast, and it was part of me trying to get my I would call it a micro publisher at this stage, Cadence Publishing. So we're about to release our second book. We're focusing on historical fiction, Christian voices in historical fiction. And we did really quite well with our first one. This one's going to be called Clouds Over Bowland, and it's about a poor bloke who's held at gunpoint. Who's a poor bloke who ends up as who's a land agent. He's running away from his own problems in Scotland. He ends up in sort of just below the Lake District in Lancashire, in a remote farming community filled with a lot of Quakers, actually, thinking he's going to have a nice, quiet life. And the first thing that happens is he gets held at gunpoint by some French prisoners of war. It's set in the Napoleonic wars, where I haven't told you who it's written by either, but by my author Rosemary Sturge. So, but I'm in the process now of wanting to scale up, and because currently I'm publishing one book every 2 to 3 years, but I'd like to do 2 to 3 books every year. So I'm getting mentoring to help with that. So.
Oh, sounds fabulous.
Brilliant. Sorry, just to go back onto that novel, because you've just flipped a switch in me. Where in Lancashire was it set?
Bowland, Forest of Bowland.
Oh, okay. Just because I was thinking when you said farming community, Lancashire, my granddad was from Bacup, which is Lancashire, and I was like, could you imagine? And nobody knows about that place, so I just thought you might be the only person on the planet who has heard of Bacup.
Well, I hadn't heard of Bowland before Rosemary came to me with this novel, but when I contacted our cover designer, she went, it was over, I found her on the internet, and she went, you do know where I live, don't you? And she lives just down the road from where.
No way.
And she's done a gorgeous cover. It's beautiful.
I've been showing that cover more often than I've been showing people pictures of my children recently.
Gary, could you tell us a little bit about your endeavours to the last word?
Yes, most of my time is spent editing for clients that usually approach me directly, and they are either wanting to traditionally publish and get their manuscript as good as it can possibly be before they send it off to try and get an agent, or sometimes direct to a publisher that still accepts unagented submissions. And sometimes they're thinking about self-publishing, and sometimes they just don't know, and they come to me and they want advice about how to go through the publishing process. And I should mention, I did write quite a large section of the Writing Magazine's self-publishing guide that's just gone into a new edition. So sometimes I'm advising people and I'll say, well, actually, I think you should take a shot at trying to get an agent with this, because this is really good. Or if they decided that they want to self-publish, and some people just decide they do want to because they don't want to go through all that long process of trying to get an agent and all the constant rejection, and they know that, well, they can go ahead and do it themselves, and they can maybe get the book out 2 or 3 years earlier than they would the traditional way, and they're definitely going to get it out because they're going to do it themselves. So they come to me, and usually what I'll do is a structural edit report. So I'm reading the book, I'm making comments on a copy of the manuscript, then I'll write them a big long report, which can be 10, 12,000 words sometimes. And it goes through everything, the character's story, the writing itself, themes, and look at what's working really well, what doesn't work so well, and then offer a lot of suggestions as well for how they can develop that book and get it to something where it is going to be ready to send to an agent. So in a way, that's a sort of larger scale version of what we talk about in Organising Chaos. It's what I do is getting the books ready to send off, really, or to self-publish them.
You've got a Facebook group as well that people can join.
Try to put a mixture of stuff. Some of it's blatant self-publicity, some of it's just really interesting stuff that come up along about writing, and a bit of humour. We try to keep it really positive and friendly, and got some quite big name writers who've joined us, although it's a fairly small number of people on there at the moment. But yeah, just after this last weekend, Philippa Ashley has joined us, and Sue Moorcroft.
Oh.
And it's developing into quite a nice little writing community there. And I think we've really, Sophie developed it originally as Sophie's Place Online. And then we found that I was posting more stuff than she was.
So you had to change the name.
And so Sophie handed the administration of it over to me. And then I got a couple of inquiries about why is it called Sophie's Place online for people who had never heard of Sophie and didn't, because she never posted anything. So eventually I just changed the name of it. And yeah, it's fun. And sometimes we have some really interesting bits and pieces we find on there. So you never quite know. And encouraging other people as well to join and post stuff, as long as it's interesting things about writing and keeping it positive. And
Thank you so much for joining us today, both of you. It's been really informative.
Yeah,
oh,
thanks a
thank
lot,
you.
guys.
Yeah.
And if anybody's interested in hearing Organising Chaos, and that's taking place on Monday, the 17th of November at 6 p.m. So head over to Writers Online to book your place, or have a look through all of our socials where we will be promoting this no end, and making sure that everybody gets the opportunity to hear these two speak.
Thanks, everyone.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you so much for having us. That was really good.
Thanks for tuning into the Write Club. We hope you enjoyed this episode and feel inspired to keep writing. Don't forget to sign up for our newsletter at Writers Online, your go-to for writing tips, competitions, and exclusive updates. Plus, you'll never miss an episode of the Write Club. Until next time, happy writing.